Welcome to the Real World. My name is Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us here on episode 89 of the Real World podcast. We are talking all about Monkey Man and the best revenge movies of all time. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. If you're a movie fan, you're in the right place. We talk all about all kinds of different movies, old movies, new movies, stuff that's streaming and in theaters. My huge collection of Blu-rays and 4Ks back there get talked about a lot here as well. So if you're a physical media fan, this is the place for you as well. Thank you so much again for joining us here on episode 89 of the Real World podcast. We're talking about the new film Monkey Man, which is now in theaters. We'll be reviewing that. And we will be talking about our top 5 favorite revenge films of all time. But let's kick things off as we usually do with some movie news. The Matrix 5 is now in development with Drew Goddard writing and directing. This film is in development right now. There's no release date yet. There's no cast announced yet. We're not even sure if this is a reboot, a remake, or a sequel. Again, they're titling it The Matrix 5 for now, but in the future that may change. So I don't know if this is a continuation of the franchise, if it's going to be a prequel, if it's going to be, again, a full reboot or a remake. I'm not sure. But this franchise has been going strong since 1999. And so I'm very curious to see what they do with the franchise moving forward. Craig Gillespie is in talks to direct Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This is the DCU film that James Gunn announced months ago. Craig Gillespie looks like he is going to be the one to bring this story to life on screen. He's directed some recent films like Disney's Cruella and I, Tonya. So he's certainly an accomplished director. Very curious to see how this film turns out. It's said to be an adaptation of the comic book of the same name, which is one of my favorites in recent history. So very much looking forward to this. If you haven't checked out the comic yet, I highly recommend it. Julia Garner has been cast as Silver Surfer in the Fantastic Four. This is the movie that's coming up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, bringing back Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four, to the big screen. Shala Bal is the character that she will be playing in this film, not Norrin Radd, who is the original Silver Surfer. Shala Bal is Norrin Radd's love interest. And in the comic book, she also became a version of the Silver Surfer, who is the Herald of Galactus, the planet-destroying entity that is an antagonist of the Fantastic Four in many comic books. He's also rumored to be the villain in this film, and now those rumors have seemingly been confirmed now that we know that Silver Surfer is going to be featured in the film as well. We don't know if this is an alternate reality. We know they're in the multiverse saga right now, so that's very much a possibility. It looks like the film is set in the 1960s. So, very interested to see what they're going to do with the storyline. I'm a huge fan of this group of characters, and specifically the Silver Surfer. The Norrin Radd character had his own animated series that I grew up watching, which was a lot of fun. You can check that out now on Disney Plus. Disney set several new release dates for some of their films, including Tron Ares, which is set for October 10th, 2025. The Mandalorian and Grogu, set for release on May 22nd, 2026. And Toy Story 5, set for June 19th, 2026. Another 2026 release date was also announced. That's for the live-action Moana remake. That will be coming out on July 10th, 2026. So 2026 looks to be a busy year for Disney. 1999's The Mummy is coming back to theaters in just a couple weeks on April 26th for its 25th anniversary. This film was released back in 1999. It's one of the most successful films of that year, and it's one of my personal favorites. I own the film on 4K. I've watched it numerous times, and very much am excited to see this one on the big screen for the first time. Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire has grossed over $200 million worldwide in just 2 weeks. It was the first film also of the year that I've seen in theaters that earned applause at the end of the film. So it's definitely a crowd pleaser, and crowds are really enjoying this movie a lot. So I'm really happy to see the MonsterVerse continuing strong. Also, Monkey Man, the film that we're about to talk about, grossed $10 million, which is actually really good considering the budget of the film was only 10 million. So it's already made its budget back. Very impressive. Very excited to see what Dev Patel does next and to see this movie continue to gain momentum. All right, folks, that's it for movie news. Let's jump into our review of Monkey Man. All right, folks, so now it is time to jump in to our review of Monkey Man. This is the new movie that's out this weekend. So we wanted to give our thoughts on it. We've got a reaction on the channel right now. My brother Carson and I were there, as well as Ben, frequent guest. He joined us to go and see this in theaters. And so you can go check that out on the channel right now. Joining me for this review is Josh. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing well.
Excellent, excellent. So time to talk Monkey Man. So just a little background for those who don't know. People might not even know what this movie is. It kind of came out of nowhere. It's a very small, independent film. It's got a budget of only $10 million
Wow.
dollars, which is probably the lowest budget movie I've seen in a while. It's stars Dev Patel, who's an actor I've really liked for a long time, going all the way back to
Hmm.
Slumdog Millionaire, his first movie. I think he had done some work on TV before then, but I really like him as an actor. I've seen, I think, most of his movies, and I've always enjoyed him. So he's not only starring though in this one, this is his directorial debut. So he's directing the film. He's also credited, he's got a story by credit, and he's got a co-screenwriting credit, and he's a producer. So he's the driving force behind this movie, without a
Definitely.
doubt. And it's pretty cool. This idea came to him way back. I think he said when he was working on Chappie, because he wanted Neil Blomkamp to direct it originally.
Oh,
And so he pitched it to him, and he said, "No, I'm doing other things. You should direct it." And so that kind of gave him confidence to take it on himself. And of course, it came across Jordan Peele, and he kind of put his clout behind it and brought on Universal, who he just made Nope with, and they got wide distribution with through Universal. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of like one of these little movies that ends up getting this big wide release. So that's pretty neat. And it's already grossed $10 million, so it's already made its budget back. Did
hey,
did
there you
pretty
go.
pretty well this weekend, coming in second at the box office. So yeah, so that's a little background on the movie. I'll just give my kind of brief non-spoiler thoughts. We'll get into spoilers in a moment, but I really like this movie. I think it's a very unique revenge thriller, mostly because of the setting. Setting it in India, I think, was really cool. Obviously, Dev Patel has roots there, and so you could tell this was very much a passion project for him. It was a story that he's been wanting to tell in a specific way, in a specific place. He had a lot to say about India and the kind of society there and the politics and everything going on there. So I definitely appreciate it a lot for all of that. I think again, the passion and energy he brings to it is really cool. I think the rest of the cast is really good as well. A lot of these actors I didn't know. I don't recognize many faces. They may be very popular in India, I'm not sure, but I thought they all did a fantastic job with the performances. The screenplay, it's a pretty harrowing film. It's pretty brutal. It definitely earns the R rating. There's no doubt about
Hmm.
that. But it cleverly infuses some humor into the film, which I think was really needed. There's a couple of characters that I got quite a few laughs at, that I really enjoyed. One of them being Sharlto Copley, who I'm a big fan of as well. And he had a smaller role here, but I really liked him. He's kind of playing like a boisterous, overzealous Fight Club host. That's pretty fun role for him. You could tell he was having a blast doing that. Um, but I really like the way the story unfolds. There's a sense of urgency to the proceedings. There's a lot of purpose behind it. Yet it takes kind of time to slow down and have some quiet character moments where we learn about the main character, as well. They really utilize the flashbacks well here too, which I think is sometimes it can be overdone or it's not done enough, so it's not clear. But here they kind of sprinkled them throughout, and then towards the end is when you really get the full picture of kind of what happened to him and why he's doing what he's doing. So I thought that was excellent. The locations, I really like that. we're kind of down in the slums with him a lot towards the beginning of the movie. Then when that's juxtaposed to where he's working in this big high rise with all these, wealthy individuals and politicians, that was a great kind of juxtaposition. The visuals really tell the story here, and I think through the use of shaky cam, the beginning of the movie, there's a lot of shaky cam and quick edits. And that's because, the character is kind of coming into his own still. He's not really sure of himself. But as the movie progresses, he gets more confident in his abilities. You can see a lot more steady cam, a lot more kind of wider shots and things like that. So I thought that was really smart and really clever. Great use of music. Music kind of plays a big role. We'll get into when we get into more of the spoiler stuff. Music plays a pretty important role, and especially a couple of the sequences that I thought was really clever. And then, production design is really good. The stunt choreography, of course, is a major highlight as well. I mean, this to me, it's really probably up there with John Wick for some of the best, stunt choreography, very, very intense and gritty and feels messy, which I like. So all of that was really well done. It's a really dark movie. It's a gritty, again, revenge film. They're not dealing with, light subject matter here. And the movie's appropriately heavy for what it's dealing with. So I thought that was interesting. Again, like I mentioned, Indian culture is represented in a really interesting way. I didn't really know much about the culture over there, and so I thought that was really well done. Also, all kinds of different themes of greed and power and justice, and all of those different kind of themes play into the film in some way. So I thought it was all well presented here in this movie, especially as a debut film. There's a lot of confidence behind what he's doing, and he's of course worked with some great directors, so he's no doubt picked up a lot from them. But I thought this was a really strong debut film from Mr. Patel. So I'll give my star rating in just a minute, but Josh, go ahead and give us your thoughts on Monkey Man.
Yeah, so non-spoilery thoughts.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I was a little confused by some plot points or some little elements, which we can get into in a moment, that I was like, I'm not sure why that happened or why they went a certain direction.
Okay.
But yeah, overall, really impressed as a directorial debut. Like you said, it's kind of like right up there with John Wick as far as the action, which says something about the film being a directorial debut. It's well executed.
Yes.
Definitely of that caliber.
Right.
So yeah, and I got to see it in Dolby, so the all the sound and everything. My seat was shaking a few times.
Yeah.
With the bass.
Awesome.
Yeah, I thought, like you said, the actors did a good job. There was some humor which I wasn't expecting.
Right.
My recommendation would be don't watch a trailer before you go see it.
Yeah.
Because I watched two of them because I realized a couple days ago I hadn't actually seen a full trailer, so I was like,
okay.
Yeah, let me watch this. So it does give some stuff away that would be best in the kind of like what you were talking about. Some of the things you talked about, it would be best in the format of the movie, the way the movie's trying to tell the story.
Yeah.
So look up a parent's guide, but don't look up a trailer.
Sure, exactly.
That'd be my recommendation.
Right, definitely. Excellent. Cool. All right, well, we can get into some spoilers now if you're ready. So I really liked, again, pretty much every aspect of the movie. The way the story unfolds. Again, I'll go back into the flashbacks and seeing, that's kind of the main thing for any of these revenge films we're going to be talking about is like, why? Why is he going after someone for revenge? Who is he going after? What did that person do? That kind of thing. So the motivation for the revenge is definitely worthy motivation, to say the least. And so it's a very intense sequence, and I think that was all very well executed, and appropriately intense, without going too far, I guess. Even though it had the R rating, they could have taken it further, but they didn't. And I thought showing a little bit of restraint with some of those things was very good. And so I liked that. I liked, the one sequence that really stands out to me is the training montage. You kind of got like a Rocky training montage towards the end of the movie. Kind of he's at his lowest point after that crazy chase sequence, which was phenomenal. That was put together.
That was good.
That was such a good sequence. And so after that, he's taken to I guess kind of like a monastery or whatever, and he's training how to fight with a guy he's not like a martial arts instructor. He's playing like this drum, and he's basically teaching him how to fight like to this beat, to this rhythm. And he's teaching him endurance, he's teaching him all these things, just they're not even talking. It's literally
Mhm.
just him playing these drums. And that was just a really unique sequence that stood out to me a lot, because I've seen, so many movies have that, like the hero's training to take on the bad guy or whatever. Like I said, every Rocky movie has it. There's all kinds of other movies that have it too, but doing that in a unique way that felt very much like this was part of Indian culture in some way,
Mm.
made it stand out and made it just really different. Again, that just something that I definitely walked out of the theater remembering that. So those are some of the things that stood out to me. The finale of where it all goes, I think, is really strong as well. It doesn't have like multiple endings and try to drag things out too long. I thought it ended where it should have ended. And so, yeah, those are some of the things that stood out to me. Josh, do you want to mention anything specific for you?
Yeah, well, I'll echo on that training montage. That was really cool, and I like that they showed a little bit beforehand about telling story through music, where the
Yeah.
guy was talking about, oh, the woman and the man and the different drums and sounds and things like that, and or the husband and the wife. And it was
Yeah.
really cool to see that. And then you kind of carry that into the montage
Right.
of how you're hearing him try and communicate without words, like you said, but he's using music as a way to convey meaning to Dev Patel's character. And
Right.
actually, I don't know the gentleman's name, but I was listening to an interview with Dev Patel, and he said that they filmed this under COVID lockdown.
Oh, right.
So I don't know how long this took
Yeah.
to make, or
Hmm.
maybe India is still under lockdown. I don't know,
Yeah.
but that guy, the musician, is, I guess, he just won a couple Grammys, I think,
Oh,
and they said that they flew him out there. He was gracious enough to come out there and like do the 14-day COVID thing just to be in those, like, mainly, I think it's just those two scenes
right.
in the film. And so he just said that was a really cool experience for him. And of
Yeah.
course it added to the movie, like was like a big part of the movie too. So I thought
Yeah.
that was cool.
That is really cool.
I liked I like all the action sequences. I don't think there was a one that wasn't well done.
Yeah.
Um, I liked the bit with the dog. I was like, what's the point of the dog? But it was like, it was cool, and I was just
Yeah.
like, there didn't need to be a point. But
Sure.
then I'm like, every time he goes through the metal detector, I'm like, did he get the gun through? And then,
Right.
but it like blinks screens. I'm like, I don't think so. And
Yeah.
then they show it the dog. I was like, oh, that was cool. That was a smart way to do it. I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I didn't care for, I don't know, some of the things that was interesting. Maybe you can shed some light on it. It seemed like he was more. It seemed like there were two motivations for him, like uh, get revenge and also help the women. And it
Right.
seemed like he maybe went just for revenge in the end and wasn't really there to help the women. I don't know. It kind of seemed
Yeah.
like it kind of floundered on that aspect.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I could see what yeah. Yeah. I think it does end up, I think in a lot of these movies that we're going to talk about today, revenge kind of blinds you in a way.
It
Like,
does. Yeah.
so I think that's kind of a little bit of what happened to him in the movie. I'd like to watch it again to really, get that ending and figure out, exactly what he was going for there, because he does end up helping, but I do feel like, yeah, you're right. It was kind of still more about his personal mission of revenge
Mhm.
than
And like setting them
helping
free or
others.
something.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, that was an interesting aspect of the film that I wasn't expecting. And so yeah, I'll have to watch it again to get a better handle on that.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty much the only really, I don't know. I was a little confused about some of the political aspect. Maybe that's just ignorance of Indian politics.
Right.
Um, like the guy who was like I don't know what the better way to describe it than the Jesus character without being, but he definitely was not a
Right.
Jesus character. But he had the
Sure.
robes and whatever.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
he'd more be a Gandhi character. But
Right. Mhm.
I was a little confused about how his role fit in with the revenge. Like obviously he's the top at the top. He's the
Sure.
head of the police police chief.
Right.
But I don't know. I was a little confused at how that was connected. Aside
Yeah.
from just he was in charge, the guy in charge of the guy that he wanted revenge on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really super clear on that either. I think it seems like he is some type of like a religious figure that also is involved in the politics or something like
Mhm.
that. And so, yeah, he was the higher up that kind of gave the order to go burn, the village or whatever. That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. I did really like. I don't remember his name, but the shorter guy with the limp. I really liked his character.
Yeah.
At first, it was like, well, he's kind of a jerk, but then he kind of rubs off on you,
Right.
and you kind of see there. I liked that they used the fight and him saying like, "Oh, bet this way,"
Right.
and like instantly you can see after that there's like this connection between them. Like they're like, okay, they kind of trust each other a little
Yeah.
bit.
Right.
So I really liked his character. I think that was what you were referring to as some of the humor that they infused into it was his character.
Definitely.
Um,
Yeah, he was great. And I love his souped up moped thing he
oh
has.
my
I was like,
gosh, that was
like,
so great.
is this becoming Fast and Furious? This is awesome.
Although I have no idea why he jumped in it. Like,
Yeah, that didn't make
and
much sense
now
either. I
he's
was
an
like,
accomplice. I was like, wait,
yeah,
why would he have jumped in it?
right.
That confused me.
Yeah.
But
In the heat of the moment, I guess he just decided to jump in there. I don't know. I think
yeah,
maybe he wanted his moped back more than anything.
maybe he was like my moped
Right.
and trying to go after it. Maybe that was what
Yeah,
it was.
exactly.
But yeah, aside from a couple like story points where I wasn't sure what exactly was happening,
Mhm.
other than that, it was really, really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked the monkey mask. I kind of wish they had almost used
Mhm.
that more because he at one point he
Yeah,
bleaches it and then he like puts it on to go and like on his final mission. I kind of wanted him to wear it longer. Like he kind of takes
I
it
did
off as soon as he
too.
gets there. Yeah.
I know. I was like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
no, put it on
Yeah.
long.
Maybe that's the comic book fan in me. I'm like, he's a superhero. He's Monkey Man. He's like Batman, but he's a monkey guy. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that was cool. I really liked again the Indian culture, the mythology
Hmm.
of the monkey god and all that stuff. I mean, that was really interesting too. That was added a layer of depth to it that was really cool. So yeah, yeah, huge fan. Anything else you wanted to mention?
Um, no, I don't think so.
Do you have a start rating? I'm at four and a
Ooh.
half. I'm a huge fan of this movie.
I'd say on one watch, I'd probably four, maybe
Okay.
four.
Okay. Good rating. Good
But
rating.
actually, another thing I wanted to point out was the cinematography
Yeah.
in coordination, and why this feels so much like John Wick in a good
Mm,
way. Aside from the fact that they referenced it, which I thought was great.
it was.
Um, they like something that's so great about John Wick is not just the fight choreography; it's the fight choreography paired with the cinematography, and then the production design of what we're looking at, which is always really
Yeah.
like not otherworldly, but like really cool.
Right.
And so I think this had that as well, where you're getting like the super intense and well executed stunt sequences, but
Mm,
then you have like that great cinematography there as well,
yeah.
which just goes right along and adds to the production value, I guess,
Yeah. I
as
agree
well as just
100%.
the experience.
Right, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and the lighting is so unique too. Like there's very specific lighting in certain shots that looks great. And so yeah, yeah, excellent stuff. Very well made movie. Very excited to see what he does next. I really am excited to, hopefully see more films from him as a director.
Mhm.
Because yeah, he's definitely got a lot of talent. So all right, folks. Well, that's it for our review of Monkey Man. Let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. Now it's time for our top five favorite revenge movies of all time. Here we go. All right, folks. Well, this is our list of top five revenge movies. So this is a pretty broad topic. This is not necessarily a specific genre that we're talking about. It's more of a theme, more of an idea. So there's a lot of different ways we could go with this. Revenge movies, quite simply, are any movie about a character seeking retribution due to something that someone else did to them. So that's kind of the simple synopsis of what a revenge movie is. Obviously, we're doing this because Monkey Man is in theaters. It's a revenge movie. So again, there's a lot of different ways we could go with this. Um, Josh, maybe talk a little bit about how you went about making this list. I know for me, it was just kind of looking at all the movies where revenge is the central plot and kind of trying to figure
Mhm.
out, which ones were my favorites. Although I wanted multiple genres and eras to be represented. So I've got movies
Mm.
dating all the way back to the 50s,
Ooh.
and I've got basically every, I mean, not every genre, but many genres covered here. So what was your kind of thought process going into these revenge movies?
Yeah. So initially it was just like, like what are the ones that stand out in your head about like, oh, the main character's trying to get revenge. But then as I was like thinking about it more and more and trying to get more, just, I don't know, extend my search, it was like, okay, so who's doing the revenge? Is it the good guy? Is it the bad guy? There's a lot of
Mm,
movies where the bad guy is trying to get revenge for a
sure.
specific reason. So
Yep.
okay, so and then how much of the movie is about that?
Yep.
Like there's like technically across the Spider Verse, Spot's trying to get revenge, but that's not. I wouldn't say
Right.
it's a revenge film
Sure.
necessarily, but it's got it in there.
Yeah.
So there's movies like that where it maybe is an undertone and maybe isn't
Mm,
necessarily what the movie's about.
right.
So it's just kind of gauging all that, and then how much I liked the movie, or how much I don't know. It was almost a little messy, kind of like these
Yeah.
revenge movies. Um, for
Right.
trying to figure out how I was going to rank these, but I did want to include. I don't have one quite as old as you. I have
Okay.
one of my honorable mentions from the '60s,
Okay.
but I think they span a fair breadth of genre,
Okay.
and I was going for any of them that had an interesting angle. I
Yeah.
was really gravitating towards any interesting angle ones. So I got a
Okay.
couple of those in there.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and kick things off with honorable mentions as we typically do. So I've got a few here I'll mention. One of them is a Western from the 60s called Hang 'em High with Clint
Hmm.
Eastwood. Big fan of that one. It's a really solid Western. The beginning of the movie is a really memorable scene where this posse rides up and just grabs him and hangs him. And of
Whoa.
course, they don't finish the job. So he's out for revenge on these people that tried to hang him for a crime he didn't commit. And so he's trying to uncover what the
Oh.
crime really was and who really committed it and
Ooh.
why and all that stuff. So it's a really interesting film. Really enjoy that one. Another Western. This one, it's an epic Western. It's like almost 3 hours long. It's Sergio Leone. And I think it's better than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which he also directed. It's called Once Upon a Time in the West.
Hmm.
And this one has three main characters, and one of them is his mission is revenge. You don't really know why until the end, but that's a really solid one. Um, I had to mention Leon the Professional. Really like
Hmm.
this one as well. This is a really good sort of action thriller. Gary Oldman's in there, Natalie
Oh
Portman.
yeah.
It's got Jean Reno, and it's a really good kind of one of those like kind of like Logan, where it's like an older character teaching a younger character, and one of them's
Oh
after
yeah.
revenge, and it's very good. Definitely worth checking out. Luc Besson directed that, and then I of course like the Die Hard franchise, and my second favorite after the original is Die Hard with a Vengeance. So it's even in the title. It's like Die Hard with a Vengeance. It's all about Hans Gruber's brother coming after John McClane.
Okay. Jeremy Irons.
Yes, yes, Jeremy
Okay.
Irons. Yeah, plays Simon Gruber. So definitely worth checking out if you're a Die Hard fan, a Bruce Willis fan. Samuel L. Jackson's in this. It's great. So
Okay.
um,
I get them mixed up. I think the Jeremy Irons one is the second one, which I didn't care for as much, but I really
right,
liked the one with Samuel Jackson. So I.
yes, that's the third one. Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's it.
Cool.
Yep,
Cool.
yep, yep. So I'll mention a few of mine in a second. Go ahead and give me a couple of yours, Josh.
Okay. Um, so Amazing Spider-Man, I thought, okay, not a main,
Oh,
not a one I put in the top five, but he's like out for revenge like half the movie.
that's a
So I
good
figured I
point.
thought that was a interesting one there.
Yeah.
Um, Ocean's 11,
Okay. Yeah.
The Menu
Yeah.
is an interesting film.
Right.
I'm not sure if Taken counts because no one died,
Yeah,
but
I had taken here too, and it's yeah, that one I was a little bit on the fence about as well because yeah, he's I guess going after the guys that took his daughter for revenge, but it's also
In a
more.
very vengeful way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. Good point. Yeah, I think it would. I think I would count it. But it's one that, yeah, I didn't put it in my top five because I think it's a little gray. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that, but Silent Night, the
Oh, okay.
John Woo film that just came out last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year.
Mhm.
Wanted to mention that one. The Dark Knight Rises. This is
Oh.
Talia al Ghul getting revenge.
Ooh,
So have to mention Gladiator, Memento.
I had
Oh,
Gladiator real
Gladiator.
quick while you're on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that one was really close to making it in here. This is one of my favorite movies. Russell Crowe, it's his birthday today. He turned 60 today.
What's today?
Yeah.
Mm.
And so yeah, this is a great one. This is one that I've visited many times, and there's a great commentary with Ridley Scott and Russell Crowe on this Blu-ray that I have. So yeah, that one was very, very close to making it on my list. Really like that movie.
I say a couple others I'll mention. I'll throw it back to you is
Yeah.
Monkey Man,
Yeah.
Black Panther because Killmonger is trying to get revenge.
Oh, yeah.
Upgrade, which may have been a contender. I don't know, but we've already talked about that one before.
Right.
I've already talked about that one before. So try and do something new as well.
Yeah.
And then Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I just rewatched that recently. Got it on 4K for my birthday.
Yeah,
So
that's where I saw that from. I was like, oh, that's about revenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was funny. I was looking for what shirt I was going to wear for the podcast. And I was like, oh, Avengers, duh, Avengers. Like they're the Avengers. They're taking revenge for Coulson and, later for half the universe. And
yeah,
so those movies are very much about kind of vengeance in many ways. I've got a few more here. Road to Perdition, one of my favorite Tom Hanks movies. Sam Mendes directed. It's really, really good. Definitely worth checking out. The Italian Job. As I was thinking about these, I was like, oh yeah, the whole opening scene is like they kill the guy and now they're getting the gold back and taking revenge and all that. So even the tagline is "Get in, get out, get even." So so that was one that I thought was a good one. Big fan of the Bourne trilogy. Bourne Supremacy is definitely one that it's like,
oh my gosh,
Bourne Identity happens, and then it's like the beginning of Bourne Supremacy is like, okay, now it's a personal revenge mission for Jason Bourne. Yeah, this is a great sequel. Really, really like this movie. So that one was almost in there. One that I got to rewatch that I like a lot. I think it's underrated. Not a lot of people talk about this. Steven Soderbergh directed. He did the Ocean's trilogy. Haywire. This is a really cool action flick. It's got a great cast. Michael Fassbender, Ewan McGregor, Bill Paxton, Channing Tatum, Antonio Banderas, and Michael Douglas.
Wow.
Gina Carano. This is like her first movie that she ever did, and so it's definitely worth checking out. Just the action sequences alone are really good. It's one of those kind of like Bourne. She's a government agent that government betrays her, and she goes out for revenge. So it's a solid one. And then my last two, these two were both, again, like right up there with Gladiators, the closest ones to making it. The Revenant. I'm a huge fan of The Revenant. Leonardo DiCaprio. This is the one he won Best Actor for, right?
Yeah.
Well deserved. This is such a good performance. The natural lighting they use throughout the whole movie. I mean, just technically, it's really outstanding. But it's a great, great revenge story. And then, of course, the one that was the hardest to cut, but I've talked about these movies so many times, is John Wick. I'm a huge fan of the whole franchise, of course. The first one is, a kind of perfect revenge movie. So had to mention it. It just didn't quite make it, again, because I've talked about it so many times before. I wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit. And so I've got some ones here that I've never really talked about before on the podcast, which is exciting. But yes, John Wick is excellent. So that's it for my honorable mentions. Do you have a couple more?
Yeah, a few more. John Wick was another one, and the reason I cut that one is because I like the sequels more.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's a good point.
Which I guess Chapter 2 is really just the first movie, but continued.
That's the thing. All four are kind of like one story. So
yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah,
because like the main part of why he's getting revenge really happens in the first movie.
Exactly.
So that's why
It just
That's,
escalates each movie. It's like
yeah.
now I'm going after revenge for the guy that guy worked for, and then that guy, it's like goes all the way to the top.
Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, that one was close for me as
Yeah.
well. But a couple others I had were both True Grit films.
Oh yeah,
That
those are
was the
great.
60
Mhm.
69 one there.
Yeah.
Damsel, which I just watched, that was pretty good. Probably the
Oh,
best, one of the best on-screen dragons I've seen.
I've got to watch that. It's on my watch list.
Okay, yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Okay, cool.
Um, Star Trek Into Darkness and The Incredibles, actually, and Skyfall
Hmm.
were the last uh, as the villain wants to get revenge in all three of those.
That's right.
So those were kind of like ooh.
Yeah.
And actually, Skyfall almost made it because it's such like the whole movie. The plot of the movie is the villain trying to get revenge, and
Yeah.
then them just trying to make it out essentially and
Right.
figure and stop him.
Yeah.
But I felt like that one had like a bit revenge was such a bigger part of the plot as opposed to others where the villain wants revenge. It's not usually carried to that degree.
Yeah.
So that one almost made it for me. And then the
Gotcha.
only other one I had was The Harder They Fall,
Oh yeah, I
which
like
is
that movie.
a good Western. Mhm.
Definitely. Definitely. Great. All right. Well, that's it for honorable mentions. Now it's time to jump into our top five. So, Josh, do you want to kick us off with your
Yeah.
number five pick?
So at number 5, I had to go with a solidly. Oh man, I take it back. I'm going to switch.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Audible.
I'm
Call
going.
an audible. He's switching up
Well,
awesome
I was about to
unexpectedly.
audible what I'd done, and then I'm audibling back to what I'd done.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
The Revenant is going to be number 5.
Oh, great. Great. Yes.
Um,
I'm glad you picked that one.
yeah, and this is just a breathtaking movie. Like if there can't be a single shot of this that's done on a stage. Like it has to have all been outside because it literally looks like they got water dripping from icicles and like it literally looks like they are out in the wilderness
Yep.
filming this movie.
Yep. They were.
Okay, good. I'm glad that's what they did.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy, I don't know if he got an Oscar nom for this, but he should have because I think this is probably his best role, this is the best role that I've seen him in anyway.
Yeah.
He just kind of disappears into this role.
Mhm.
And I liked, there were some interesting, right in the beginning, there's some comments he makes, there's some things he says, and you immediately know what kind of person he is. So I thought that was really smart screenwriting
Yes.
of just dropping a couple words here and there, and you kind of know what kind of person he is.
Yep.
I forgot what's his name. Will Coulter, is that his name?
Will Poulter, yeah.
Poulter, I was close.
Yeah.
I forgot he was in it. I forgot Donald Gleason was in it.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But yeah, insanely well acted on all fronts, and just everything about this movie visually, everything you're seeing in production design. The only CGI I could think of is the bear,
Right.
and which that is a harrowing scene.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, great movie, great revenge story. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a great film. Alejandro Inarritu, yeah, he decided to shoot all of it in the wilderness. I want to say Alaska, but I'm not positive. Might have been Canada or somewhere. But yeah, use all natural lighting too, which is crazy to think about. I mean, even the stuff they're shooting at night, it's like all by fire or candlelight or whatever.
Wow.
It's pretty insane what
And it's
they
well
went through.
lit.
It is, yeah, you can see everything very clearly. So very well done, very immersive cinematography, a lot of long oneers, and stuff like that that they pulled off. Yeah, the
A lot
bear
of
scene
close-ups
is
too.
right. Yeah, the close-ups are great as well. Yeah, all the makeup and hairstyling is fantastic. Very immersive film. Very immersive for sure. And yeah, it's a true story too, which is the crazy thing is that the true story is actually even more unbelievable because what he actually survived and went through is like he I think he had to travel a longer distance and ran into other problems along the way. They had to like cut it down for the movie to make
Oh man.
audiences not think this is a fake story because it's pretty crazy what he did. But yeah, very good movie, very well made. Like I said, DiCaprio earned that Best Actor award that year for sure. Great pick. I'll go ahead and cover my number five now. It's from 1967. It's called Point Blank. So this is a movie
Oh.
directed by John Boorman, who I'm a big fan of. He directed 1981's Excalibur, which is still my favorite King Arthur film. This is a really cool kind of neo-noir, action thriller. It's got some, exciting action sequences in it, but most of it's very character focused, and it's just kind of about, this character who's double crossed and he doesn't know who to trust, and he has to kind of, a lot like John Wick, kind of work his way up through this organization,
Hmm.
finding out who did this to him and why, and that whole thing. And the characters that he interacts with are all really interesting as well. Lee Marvin is the star of this. He's one of my favorite actors from that era. He starred in The Dirty Dozen, several other films that I really like. He was a Marine, so this is a real tough guy. He wasn't faking it. Gives a great performance here. Maybe his best performance in this movie. I really like it. The cool thing about this Blu-ray is it has a commentary with John Boorman, the director. This is decades later, um, and Steven Soderbergh, who I already mentioned,
Oh,
the Ocean's trilogy and Haywire, several other movies I like. And so it's kind of cool to hear Soderbergh talk about this movie because he's a fan. He likes the movie a lot. He's referenced it in his movies, and
mm,
him talking to John Boorman about, hey, how did you do this? It's really interesting.
that's
Almost feels more
cool.
like an interview than a commentary, in some ways. So that was a unique commentary. I hadn't heard one like that before, and it was really a lot of fun to listen to. So I'd highly recommend that if you have a chance to pick that up. But yeah, Point Blank made my number five.
Okay. It's really cool. That's one of my favorite things about seeing like interviews or like some of the stuff you see on Twitter or X about
Right.
like just filmmakers or actors or anyone in the film industry interacting, and then you
Yeah.
can see that they're truly a fan of the other person
Hmm.
and wanting to learn and stuff like that. And that's just so cool. I love seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. They're really fun commentary. So, yep, it's a good one. All right, so that was my number five. Josh, what do you have at number four?
At number four, I have The Prestige.
Oh, good pick. Okay, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just one huge twisted tale of revenge,
It is.
folding in on itself over and over again,
Right.
um, as two magicians are going at it.
Mm,
If you haven't seen this movie, probably skip ahead a bit because
yeah,
yeah, you don't want to hear spoilers on this one.
right.
But it's Nolan, so it's worth watching.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, just oh my gosh, this is just all of his movies are so well made, but this one every time I feel like it's one of his more forgettable ones, but not in a I don't know why, but
Yeah.
because every time I watch it again, I'm just like re-enthralled and like oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is about it, but
Mm,
everything on this is just the highest of filmmaking quality. And then the story itself, as these two magicians, are going at it, are just like the stories is enthralling, and like as they're going deeper, you're like in more and more
yep.
to what's going on, and then of course all the twists are just uh, like didn't see them coming, and
No.
it's one of those movies that's so cool to go back once you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess
Oh,
I didn't need to say spoilers because I'm not saying anything, but to go back once you know
yeah.
and just see like all
Hmm.
the little breadcrumbs that you missed along the way.
Right.
Um, yeah, actually, I thought of kind of I guess because this movie, I thought of angling my top five a specific way, like maybe all Christian Bale films or maybe all um, movies that had Rebecca Hall or something. I don't know, but she's an underrated
Oh,
actress.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
from this to the actually because she's in the Godzilla
Yeah.
versus Kong and X Kong movies.
Right.
I had some connection with Dan Stevens that I was going to do something with the top five too. I don't remember what it
Oh,
was,
okay.
but anyway, all that to say is this is a fantastic film and a good lesson on why not to do revenge. And you
Yes.
could definitely see when it consumes you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a great film. I have it in my top five Christopher Nolan movies. I think
Mm.
it's one of his best, honestly. It's one that I really enjoy watching every time I watch it. Yeah, even now knowing the twists, it kind of almost makes it better in some ways. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, it's like it's really all there. Um, yeah, it's really very intelligently written. I want to say his brother wrote that one. Jonathan Nolan, I want to say he wrote it, but I'm not positive. It's it's a really good movie. It's one of my favorite performances from both Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale because they're both playing two characters, which is
True.
really, really crazy. Um, and yeah, it's excellent. Like you said, Rebecca Hall's fantastic. Scarlett Johansson's great. Of
Mhm.
course, Michael
Michael Caine.
Caine. You know, it's just the whole cast is great, and it has a great look and the feel. That just you're on the edge of your seat. I feel like that whole movie. It's just
Hmm.
got a really
Hmm.
great tone and a great vibe to it. So yeah, excellent choice. Gonna move on to my number four, which is a film from 2002. It's called The Count of Monte Cristo.
Ah,
Uh,
nice.
Big fan of this movie. First time I remember hearing about it is my cousin Preston was really into it, and he told me about it, and I had to go watch it, and have always enjoyed it. I've enjoyed this movie so many times. It's kind of one of these classic period piece adventure stories, sort of an epic journey we go on with the main character. Jim Caviezel's fantastic in the lead role.
Hmm.
Got to watch it with the commentary on yesterday. Kevin Reynolds directed this.
Oh,
He's directed a couple of movies I really like. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Waterworld. He did Risen a couple years ago. And his commentary was very informative, went in detail on so many different things.
hmm.
One of the things that he talked about was that when they originally cast the roles, they went to Guy Pearce first for him to play Edmund.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and Guy Pearce, when he read the script, said, "No, I don't want to play Edmund. I want to play, the other guy. I want to be the antagonist
Ah,
this time." And so he was like, "Okay, you can play whatever you want." They just wanted Guy Pearce in the movie. But
okay.
I'm glad because I think he fits that role very, very well.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Richard Harris, the late Richard Harris, many know as Dumbledore, is great in this as well as the kind of mentor figure. He's one of my favorite characters in the film.
Hmm.
And it's just a really, really memorable, impactful movie. Again, all about revenge, all about, him going after revenge. This very elaborate plan that he set in place years in the making, that
Yep,
he
literally.
puts into place, and it some kind of takes some interesting turns that he's not expecting.
That's true.
The performance from Caviezel is really interesting because he's got this singular mission, but some unexpected things happen that he doesn't really expect, and he kind of has to like steel himself against these things in order to make his plan go through, which he kind of doesn't want to do, and by the end of the movie, it's kind
Yeah.
of clear that he doesn't even want to take revenge anymore. Um, but it's really good. It's again, like we're mentioning, it's all about how revenge becomes an obsession and it really
Hmm.
just consumes you and makes you turn into someone you're really not, which is
Literally.
yeah, I mean in this movie very literally. And so yeah, he creates this whole persona, almost like Batman. Again, Batman is kind of the
Mm.
ultimate kind of, I think, for our society, the archetypal big revenge story. I didn't include any Batman movies, but this is, I think, the closest to a Batman movie on my list. Count of Monte Cristo is very similar. He kind of creates this other persona and goes after him on this mission. So yeah, great film. Shot mostly on location. The locations all
Mm.
look fantastic. Henry
They
Cavill's in here
do.
as well, who I
Yes,
forgot
he
was in
is.
this. And I think it's his first movie. Um,
First one I saw him in.
yeah, first film he was in. I think the director was talking about that, how he was very nervous because it was his first movie, but yeah, he did a great job in it as well. So yeah, it's really, really good. The director also talked about they were kind of thinking about having a different ending. This is, of course, based on a book that's been around a long time. There's
Mm.
been many film adaptations, and they were thinking about making the ending a little bit darker, and they ended up just kind of, I think, sticking with the kind of more slightly upbeat ending, I guess you could say. But yeah, really, really good movie. Really good movie. Really enjoyed watching this one again. And yeah, big fan. So that's my number four.
Nice, nice.
Um, Josh, we're on to your number three. What do you got?
So for my number three, I have I think it's an indie movie. It's probably it's too little known, I would say. Now, upon my second watch, it's called Blue Ruin.
Oh, great
It's
movie.
from 2013.
Yes.
Um, I included this one because it's such a. I feel like it's so different from all the other ones in this
Mm,
genre, or at
mhm.
least a good chunk of them. So in this one, like the revenge happens pretty darn early on in the film.
Right.
But this is like in a different way showing how revenge consumes is like just the fallout of
Yeah.
it's
Consequences.
kind of
Yeah. Big
Hatfields and
time.
McCoys here.
Right.
It just never ends.
Exactly. It's a
Um,
cycle. Yep.
it is,
Yep.
and one of the uh, podcast Facebook groups I'm in, like this one person was just talking about this movie, and like bringing up all the time. And so eventually I was like, okay, let me just watch this movie. What is this? And so I thought it was good, but it was not like blown away or anything
Mm.
the first time I watched it, but I actually just rewatched it.
Oh,
And I think it deserves a little more credit than I was giving it.
yeah. Yeah.
It just a lot of the film is actually silent.
Oh,
Not like
right. Yeah.
not a ton of it,
Hmm.
not all of it, not
Yeah.
something like some of the other more recent ones that we've seen
Right.
or mentioned, but like at least in the beginning, almost all of it is silent.
Yeah.
And there's so much of it, I feel like, even in scenes where it may not be silent, there's so much of it where it's uh, the camera is the one talking, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think you had mentioned that in your review I saw too, where
Hmm.
it's so much of it is uh, we're being told information through the camera, not just what the camera's looking at, but how it moves and just different things like that, which is really cool and good props to the director for the visual storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, just that aspect of it really elevated the film and made it stand out to me. As far and then also just the unique look at like what happens when you take revenge on somebody that you shouldn't have taken revenge on.
Right.
Plus, it's also really sorry. Just if you saw me wince, I just keep thinking of he stabs the tire and cuts his hand
Oh,
scene. I
yeah.
kept thinking of that. Like I don't know why that was playing in my head, but that very realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
It's very realistic. Very much
Yeah.
like kind of a half baked revenge idea.
Hmm.
And yeah, not really sure where it's going to go.
Yeah. He's no Count of Monte Cristo. He doesn't think this out very
No,
well.
no, definitely not. But the guy from Home Alone, what's his name? The bully older brother from Home Alone is in it.
Oh, right.
Buzz,
Yeah.
which I was surprised to see. That was kind of
Right.
cool. He plays a
Yeah.
totally different character.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just a really gritty,
Mm.
like what would happen if a person in real life tried to take the law into their own hands,
Yeah.
and then the other people tried to do the same.
Right. Right.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. Very well made, well crafted film.
Yeah, I agree. It's really tense. That movie, I just
Mhm.
remember the tension in that film. It's just palpable. So yeah, the director I just looked up, Jeremy Saulnier,
Mm.
also did another movie I really like called Green Room. So I don't know if all of his films have
Mm.
colors in the title or not, but Green Room is also very, very well worth watching. Yeah, Blue Ruin is excellent. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, I definitely remember it well. And yeah, it's definitely worthy of being on the list. So I'm glad you picked it.
Mhm.
All right, on to my number three. The most recent film on my list is from 2022.
Ooh.
This is The Northman.
Ah.
The Northman is a film by Robert Eggers, who's one of these up and coming directors. He's done, I think this is his third movie. He did The Witch. He did The Lighthouse. Very
Oh, this guy.
films. Yeah, films that are very popular among certain segments. I mean, they're kind of niche movies, right? But they're very well made. All of his movies are expertly made, very unique movies, very memorable, a lot of striking imagery. And this is the same way. I mean, this is one of these brutal, gruesome tale of revenge. It's all, Vikings. It's a Viking kind of epic. So the time era is very unique. The authenticity this film has is really incredible. I was watching some behind the scenes on it last night, and I got to listen to the commentary, and it's just like painstaking I mean, down to literally like the costume designer was talking about the types of thread they would use for the costumes. Of like,
Wow.
oh no, that was a 14th century thread. You would have to use the 11th century thread. So we have to,
That's so
I mean, like
cool.
crazy detail. I mean,
Oh my
insane,
gosh.
an insane amount of detail went into this movie, and it shows on screen. I mean, it really, it just feels like you're there in that time with those people. Um, Alexander Skarsgård, just another level like of a performance that I
Mm.
haven't seen him give. He was like born to play this role. He was literally talking about how like since he was a teenager, he wanted to play like a Viking, and tell these
Oh,
because
that's
he's
cool.
he's from, Europe and he's grew up listening to all these kind of stories of the Norse mythology and all that stuff. So he was literally, I think, born to play this role. And then you've got Nicole Kidman in there, Anya Taylor-Joy, Ethan Hawke, Willem Dafoe. It's just like
Oh.
a really incredible cast, all doing great work. Um, it's a blend of, again, it's on location. They shot, I think, a lot of it in Ireland, Northern Ireland, some of it in
Mm.
Iceland as well. And just beautiful scenery, huge shots of the landscapes and different things like that, that just give it that kind of otherworldly feel. Because there is a supernatural element to it that, it's acting
Oh.
as if the Norse mythology is real. And so there
Oh,
is a little bit of
interesting.
that in the film as well. It's mostly a very kind of grounded, kind of just medieval film, but there is a little bit of that sprinkled throughout it, which makes it even more interesting and different. So I really like this movie.
Hmm.
It's got, again, cinematography is amazing. A lot of it's, again, they tried to shoot as much of it as they could by firelight or candlelight. Not all of it, but a lot of it is shot that way. And the music is fantastic, very immersive. It's just one of those movies that has it depicts this ancient culture and what it feels like, and from all the behind the scenes I watched, it's definitely a very historically accurate way.
Hmm.
So I like all of that. It's kind of one of these tried and true stories that we've seen a lot. It's Hamlet, basically, The Lion King. If you've seen those types of movies, that kind of basic
Hmm.
revenge plot of a kind of royal family and that kind of thing. That's what they're doing here, but it's the setting is so unique, and again, the imagery is so different that it really sets itself apart. So, big fan of this movie. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed, again, the commentary where Eggers was talking a lot about even some of the things that he was like, I wish we could have done this or done that differently or whatever, kind of pointing out certain things little things that he would have tweaked to make it better. But I
Hmm.
think it's just a fantastic movie, from top to bottom. It's really, uh, it's one that's certainly intense, and it again follows that whole idea of, it's better not to take revenge. It's better to forgive and to not take that route.
Hmm.
But there is a certain amount of change that the character goes through in a unique way. That I won't give away everything that happens in the ending, but it's a very good ending, and it's again, it's just cool how they interweave the Norse mythology into it as well. So highly recommend it if you can bear very gruesome battles, that it's very barbaric the way that they would fight, and it's not for the faint of heart, but it's definitely worth a watch. So that's The Northman. That's my number three.
Okay. Yeah, that one's been on my watch list for a bit. Just haven't gotten to it. So
Gotcha.
maybe now I will.
There you go. There you go. All right, moving on to your number two. Josh, what do you have at number
Yes.
two?
So my number two, it's an interesting movie. It's got fencing, fighting, revenge, giants, monsters, true love, and miracles, but probably not the one you're thinking.
Oh.
Once Upon a Deadpool.
That's funny. Oh, that's great. You had me going there for a second. That's
Yeah,
good.
I
That's good.
specifically didn't mention A Princess Bride in my honorable mentions, so it could be so I could have that edge.
Right. That's right.
Um, yeah, so this one was I chose it because it was such a wacky out there pick to do as a revenge film. But it's like literally the whole plot is revenge.
Yeah.
So like Deadpool instantly gets revenge. There's like three main characters that get revenge. Deadpool gets revenge. Russell wants revenge. and then Cable is trying to get revenge on Russell for something he does in the future,
Right.
and so it was like chock full of revenge.
Yeah.
Um, Thankfully, well, spoilers. Thankfully, it ends on a happy note, and
Right.
no one except Deadpool gets revenge.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was just such a like as I was like, I don't know if I saw something online or the thought just came to me, but I was like, wait, that's about revenge, isn't it? And so I was like digging in a little bit just to make sure. But yeah, then I rewatched it, and it's I don't know. This movie, it's weird because it's like an edit of Deadpool
Right.
2,
Yeah.
but in like the Princess Bride style, which I
Yeah.
think adds a lot to it. I've never seen the original cut of it,
Okay.
or the first movie. This is the only Deadpool one I've seen.
Okay.
But aside from a couple things that I still wouldn't show it to my family,
Right.
um, even though it's like a PG-13 F-wordless movie.
Right.
Um, Aside from those couple things, I don't know. I just really enjoy it. And it's got a lot of heart. Like
Mm.
for something that shouldn't. Like this movie
Yeah.
shouldn't have any heart. This movie shouldn't have any memorable lines or memorable characters aside from Deadpool. Like it should
Yeah.
just be a wacky, weird, actiony, comical movie.
Right.
Um, but there's like, I meant to write it down, but I didn't. But there's like a few lines that they'll give that they sprinkle throughout the film, where it just really is like, oh wow, I didn't think about that. Or like, oh, I really
Mm.
like. I don't know. It's just really cool emotional
Mhm.
beats in the movie
Yeah.
that was surprising to me because again, I was not expecting it in a Deadpool movie.
Right.
But then you have these endearing characters and these really heartfelt moments amidst kidnapping Fred Savage. So what's not to love?
Great. It's great. I haven't seen this cut. I want to watch it. I've seen the original cuts of both Deadpool movies. Not a fan of the first Deadpool at all. The second one I think is a lot better than the first one. I really like what David Leitch did. He directed that. The action in it is excellent. I like the
Mhm.
whole cast. Josh Brolin's one of my favorite actors,
Yes.
and yeah, Ryan Reynolds. Look, he was born to play this role. I mean, he's played him
Yeah.
in every movie he's played since Deadpool. So, yeah, Deadpool 2 is definitely a superior sequel in my book. And I would really like to watch this cut that you have because it sounds really fascinating. I'm a huge Princess Bride fan, and the only reason it didn't make it is because Inigo Montoya is really the only one seeking revenge, and he's
Yeah.
not really the main character. Um, but he definitely deals with that subject in a really interesting way. So I wouldn't have discounted it if you had included it, but this is a much more creative way to include it. And so, yeah, great pick. Once Upon a Deadpool, definitely one I have to check out.
Yeah.
All right, on to my number two. This is the Western on my list. And
Mm.
it's another Clint Eastwood Western. It's not Hang 'em High, which I mentioned earlier. It's The Outlaw Josie Wales.
Mm.
This is from 1975. It's Eastwood directing and starring. I think he had directed a couple films before this, but this was kind of his first big breakout Western that he had
Oh, okay.
directed. And so, of course, he had worked with Sergio Leone on, the Man with No Name trilogy, and had starred in, several other Westerns. He was on the TV show Rawhide. So he was no stranger to the genre, but coming into it as a director, he did some really cool things where, he grew up watching all of the John Ford, John Wayne Westerns, the classic
Mhm.
American Westerns. And then kind of, again, been a part of the spaghetti Westerns of the 60s where they kind of were a lot more morally gray and dirty and grittier. And so coming into the 70s with kind of his own take on it, he kind of blended the two in a cool way.
Mm.
In that, he kind of had those beautiful shots of the American West, like John Ford would have, but also giving it some grit, like the spaghetti westerns had. So this movie um, starts off with the reason why he's on this revenge mission. He loses his entire family, and so the opening scene is quite hard to watch. It's a kind of takes you back a little bit, but the story as it progresses is interesting because while he's on this revenge mission, he comes across all these different characters and all these different characters. He's kind of trying to just be a loner, lone outlaw, kind of on his own doing this thing. But the longer he's on this mission, the more people he interacts with, he kind of builds this new family. And
Hmm.
so it's a really cool journey that we go on with Josie Wales. You know, it's a story of family lost and then family found is kind of the whole journey that we go on with him, which is really cool and a really unique way to do it. The cast is great. Chief Dan George is a Native American actor who's fantastic in this. He's hilarious. At a time when, you know, a lot of the portrayals of Native Americans were either, you know, they were the bad guys or they were just very stoic. He gives a very
Hmm.
layered and interesting performance that was really unique for the time. So he's definitely one of my favorite characters in the film. And then there's other characters he meets along the way that all have, you know, impact on him in many different ways. So really good, really great bad guys that you just kind of hate, you know, the whole way through the movie. You kind of can't wait for him to get the revenge on them. It's really really well done in that way. So it has intensity to it. It's definitely a revenge driven film, but like I said, it has these characters that infuse it with some humor, which is always welcome and can be kind of surprising in these types of movies. You're not really expecting that,
Yeah.
but it's really well done. Very well shot. Like I mentioned, a lot of great kind of landscape shots of the American West throughout it. It has a kind of mythic quality to it. It's all very grounded and real, but it's just kind of, you know, what I consider sort of the quintessential, you know, revenge Western. True Grit, you know, of
Hmm.
course, did it as well. But that one I feel like is almost more of a mission of justice, or it becomes that at
That's
least
true.
in a way. And so, you know, that's the thing about a lot of these movies is there's kind of that blurred line of what is vengeance, what is justice, and what does that mean to the individuals in the film. So a lot of movies deal with that in some really interesting ways, and this one does that, I think, as well. So yeah, big fan of Outlaw Josie Wales. It's one of my favorite westerns of all time. Actually, I give it 5 stars. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, that's my number two pick, Outlaw Josie Wales. So
Nice.
all right, Josh, we are on to your number one revenge movie. What do you have at
So,
your spot?
uh, it is one you have already mentioned.
Hmm. Okay.
So it is The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, great movie. Yes. Great pick.
Yes, which is why I was silent pretty much the entire time you were talking about it. But a friend also introduced me to this one
Hmm.
film.
Okay.
And just since then, it's just like been far and away. Like, I don't know, to me, it is the quintessential revenge movie.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about, it's so involved and the whole thing is about revenge. And just like the filmmaking quality, it's almost like uh, it doesn't have quite I don't know if scale is the right word, but
Hmm.
like of like an epic.
Sure.
Like, you think of movies like 300 or
Hmm.
Troy, something like that.
Hmm.
So I don't know if it has quite that scale, maybe just the amount of like an epic battle scene. She's missing an epic battle scene or
Right.
something.
Sure.
But I feel like other than that, it's like almost right there is what I guess I could call it a revenge epic.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I would. I think, but I almost the director talked about that in this commentary. He's
oh,
like,
really?
yeah, I wanted it to be kind of an epic. We didn't quite have the budget to make it as much of an epic as I wanted it to be, but I kind of like that he wasn't able to do that because I feel like I like the intimate quality of the film. Like it
Yeah.
has a lot of that very personal, like character focused type
Hmm.
style, which I think actually works more in its favor than if they'd tried to gone really big with it.
Yeah. It keeps the focus in the story on the characters.
Exactly.
Um, and like you said, they're all excellently acted. Jim Caviezel, I think, this is definitely one where yes, Guy Pearce would not have been great as the good guy,
Yeah.
because Jim Caviezel just has, like, you look at him and he just has this such a look of innocence
Yes.
about him,
Right.
as his character he's playing. He just does it so
Hmm.
well.
Yep.
And then of course you have all the nuance and layers of the story and
Mm.
why he was sent away to prison and everything involved with that is such a fascinating web to unweave
Yeah.
as we progress through the story. And then, of
Hmm.
course, like you mentioned earlier, where as he's now the Count of Monte Cristo, and he comes into something that I wasn't expecting, and he has to react to it. It's almost like he's acting within an acting, because he's trying to be this persona, and this persona can't respond in a way that he would respond because it would betray who he is.
Mm.
And so I don't know. There's a lot of interesting layers and nuance in this film as well as like sword fighting. I don't know. I feel like it's on. I don't know when was this released? Early 2000s.
2002, I think.
I feel like it's that time, that era of filmmaking, kind of like Zorro, where you just have these like, I don't know. I don't really. Maybe you have a better word to describe it. Just these like, they're just so well done, so well made, and just like perfectly classic films that you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you just can't make a film like this anymore, and I don't
Yeah.
know why. But
Yeah, that's
like,
true. They were kind of harkening back to an earlier era. And I think those guys that were making those movies were students of film from like the 30s and 40s, where they would make, the original Zorro, for example, The Mark of Zorro, or, all those kind of classic films. I think they were really taking note from that and trying to put it in doing that, but with modern, production and technology and all of
mhm.
it. So yeah, those movies really worked very well. I think for that reason. I think it's because they were kind of looking back a little bit, as well as looking forward and doing something new and different.
Yeah, and Richard Harris's character is just
Ah,
literally the best.
yeah,
Like,
yes.
there's so many. It's almost. I think it is like an epic too, because there's like different. There's very clearly defined acts
Oh
in
yeah.
the film as well.
Hmm.
Which I don't know. Like, one person could look at it and go, "Oh, it feels so long," but it really doesn't. It's just because there's these acts there's so much going on in them, and it's just such a good character study as well.
Yeah, it's an excellent movie. Like I said, it's yeah, it made both of our top fives. I think it's probably the only
That's
one
true.
it's the only one
That's
that
true.
did that. So yeah, definitely one of the quintessential, if not the quintessential revenge tale. That's again the book. I don't know when it was written, long time ago. So been around for a long time, and it still
Mhm.
endures because they're making a new version. You sent me the trailer for the new.
Yes, they are.
I think it's being made in France, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a mini series.
Oh, okay,
I
okay,
don't. I don't remember. It might be a movie. I'm not sure.
okay, cool. You have to keep our eye out for that. All right, well, great pick. Now we're moving on to my number one
Yes.
favorite revenge film from the year 1959. So it's the oldest film on my list. This is a
Oh,
true
okay.
epic in every sense of the word. It is Ben-Hur.
Oh my
Ben-Hur
gosh.
is my all-time favorite film about revenge. One of my favorite films of all time.
Hmm.
Bert and I talked about this when we first started the podcast, went through our top five favorite movies, and this was in there for me. So yeah, huge fan of Ben-Hur. We watch this every year. So I literally just watched it. We watch it around Easter time. And so we
Ah.
just got finished watching this about a week ago. And yeah, it's a great film. It's everything you could want in a movie. It's got, huge production design, the sets and the cast of extras. I mean, literally, some scenes have hundreds, if not thousands, of extras in them. So pretty incredible to look at. It's just the scale of it is, I really don't think we've seen anything like it before or since. I mean, they just don't
Hmm.
spend that kind of money. I mean, Lord of the Rings obviously has stuff like that, but it's all digital. This is all real, actual people standing in the background. So it's pretty amazing to watch the costumes and all of it that they had to create for all of these characters is really amazing. And Charlton Heston in the lead role of Judah Ben-Hur is one of my favorite actors of all time. I think this is his best performance. He has to go through so many emotions. We're following him across,
Hmm.
several years of his life.
Yeah.
And so, you get to see everything, in here. And then there's, of course, standout moments like the chariot race, which I think still is one of the best action sequences ever filmed. It's just so exhilarating and uh, harrowing to watch. Certain moments throughout that whole race is really really cool, very well shot and edited. Um, and this is one of the first stories. This was, of course, based on a book, Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ. It's one of the first fictional stories to use the life of Christ as a backdrop. And so,
Hmm.
he has several encounters with Christ throughout the film that are all very impactful moments for him as a character and for just seeing his compassion, different things throughout his story as he's kind of on this quest for vengeance. And then you have, the life of Christ again in the background, kind of paralleling, kind of opposite opposite storylines, kind of going there, which is really, really masterfully done. I mean, it's I love the reverent way they depict Christ. First of all, never showing his face is really, really cool. And then, there's a scene at the end of the film, this is why it's my favorite, revenge story, is because he has a moment where Ben-Hur says, speaking of Christ, at the moment he died, I heard him say, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I felt his voice take the sword out of my hand." So it's one of those stories where Ben-Hur, he's searching for vengeance the whole time against Messala, who's, his best friend who betrays him. And, he ends up getting his revenge in that chariot race, but ultimately he finds it's not fulfilling. He still feels the same way. There's that void in his life that he can't, figure out what it is. And it's obviously through the redemption that he finds in Christ that he ultimately finds, forgiveness is the path forward for him. He should have just forgiven him and, moved on with his life. So it's a great moment. It's a great moment too when he comes back home and, his mother and his sister, who have had leprosy throughout the film, they've been physically healed, as well. And so it's kind of that mirror of, the inward healing that he has and the outward healing that they have. It's just a beautiful, beautiful image there at the end when they embrace. And so it's great. It's a great, great film. Very well made on every level. Again, it's an epic, the likes of which I don't think we'll ever really see in the same way, at least again. And just highlights the biblical theme of, vengeance is mine, says the Lord, which is from Deuteronomy, and it's repeated again in Romans. So that's what that film really highlights and lifts up, that I really feel like is just so impactful every time I watch it. So it had to make number one. That was an easy pick for me. My number one being Ben-Hur.
Nice. I've only seen that movie once,
Okay.
years ago.
Yeah.
When my dad showed it to me.
Yeah.
But I need to watch that one again. I fully forgot about it, and then until you mentioned it. But yeah, that is there are definitely some scenes that stand out in that film, like the chariot race, and then I don't know if it was when he first discovered his mother and sister had leprosy, but it's in the dark and they're covered.
Yep.
I remember that visual image sticking out, and then when he's in the boat rowing.
Oh yeah, the boat sequence is great too. Yeah, definitely worth a watch. I've got the Blu-ray. It looks fantastic on the restoration they did on it is absolutely incredible. It really looks stunning. So highly recommend that. All right, folks. Well, that's it for our top 5 revenge films. Josh and I both got through our lists. That was a fun list to make. Again, it was a different one because it wasn't a specific genre or anything. It was more of an idea or a theme. We should maybe think about doing more of those in the future. I think that was a good way to look at it. So, well, thank you all again for listening and watching. We really appreciate it. We're so close to 500 subscribers. Help us get there. If you can share this on social media, it's greatly appreciated. Josh, thanks again for joining me, man. This was fun.
Thanks for having me. It was a good discussion.
Absolutely. Really, really interesting discussion. We could go a lot deeper on a lot of these movies. A lot of things to explore there. So thank you again. Make sure you leave your list in the comments below. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos, and we'll see you next time right here on The Real World.